to start with a quick prayer, and we're going to get into it. Dear Lord, thank you for this great opportunity at the church, teaching about health and the current topic of sleep. It's a big topic, so asking for your help here to best serve the people here with the right information that they can use, and they don't get off into the weeds and talk about a bunch of crazy stuff. So be here with me for that. In Jesus' name, amen. So, a couple new people, 3. I prefaced each lecture with the story of Cain and Abel. So, does anybody, the new people, know why Cain's offering was rejected?
The worst crop.
Okay, yeah. So what's the opposite of worst?
Best.
Yeah. So he wasn't offering his best, right? So kind of like the undertone of this series was, are we offering our best when it comes to our health and just our daily lives? Like as Christians, we show up to church, we do the spiritual things, and we think we're all good, but do we have a holistic approach to our life, and are we offering our best every day? You know, I can sure say that I don't, I'm sure we can all say that we don't, but it's something to strive for. So that's kind of the undertone of the series, is figuring out how we can offer our best to God, and especially with our health. So, without further ado, physical activity and sleep. So I want to touch on physical activity kind of quickly, because I don't think it's like super complicated. I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like you just do it. So it's not like you have to learn a bunch of stuff about it before you start. It's better to just start doing something, you know. So we don't have to get into a ton of stuff with that, like education-wise. But sleep is a really big one. It's the most important aspect of health. And a lot of people don't know that. They don't understand sleep. We just think that we do it every day and I'm unconscious and everything's great. But it's way more complicated and it's super important. So we're going to dive into that. But we're starting with physical activity. So let's first define it. So there's movement, physical activity, and exercise. So there's some definitions there to kind of break up what physical activity is. But basically, anytime you're moving, you're being physically active. So if I'm up here walking around, like this is technically movement and some type of physical activity. Is it exercise? No. Me standing up here, you guys sitting, that's not exercise. Exercise is like an intentional, goal-oriented activity. So I'm going to do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and 100 squats. I'm going to do it right now. Like that's the intention of exercise. That's what makes the difference between exercise, movement, and physical activity. Then fitness. Obviously, everybody has a different fitness level. So everybody in the room would have a different beginner stage of where they're starting. Like, most of you probably aren't going to compete with me when it comes to some type of fitness level. But you can start out wherever you need to. Like if walking is your level of exercise and that's like the hardest thing you can do, then that's what you got to do. But if you can run, then you should probably run. You know, there's like a difference in your ability level of what you're capable of currently. Running?
We'll change that subject.
Okay. Okay, so here's the lifestyle recommendations. It's recommended to get 150 minutes or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity per week. So ideally you do like 2 days of strength training. It's a good idea to do strength training. And that can look different for everybody. It really depends on, like I said before, your personal ability level and where you're at currently in your life. If you can do 1 push-up, great, do 1 push-up. If you can do 100, then that's what you need to do. You need to do 100. So we'll get into like the differences between moderate and vigorous eventually. It might be the next slide, but the best thing for weight loss is zones 1 and 2. We're going to talk about heart rate zones later, a little picture. And zones 1 and 2 is pretty much the talk test. So if you're able to have a conversation, like usually, probably everybody in the room can walk on a flat area and talk to somebody, right? So that's kind of zone 1. But if that talking becomes a little bit laborsome and that talking slows down, you have to like kind of like say maybe like 6 words and then pause, take a breath, and then say like a few more words, take a breath. Then you're getting into zone 2. And zones 1 and 2, that's going to be where we're burning fat and carbs. So you're doing like both metabolic processes, and that's kind of the best for weight loss. Especially if you're just starting out, you don't really need to do much more because you probably hurt yourself. You want to start out very slowly. The tortoise and the hare, right? Who wins the race? The tortoise. Checking your pulse. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure everybody knows your pulse. You can check here or your neck. And if you count to 6 for like on a stopwatch, it's hard to count to 6 and count your pulse at the same time. I know I can't do that. But you need a stopwatch, 6 seconds, and then just times it by 10, you get a rough idea of what your current heart rate is at. And that's important to know. Did this turn on? Because these are your zones here. So if we get into heart rate zones, it gets into percentages, and you have to know your heart rate max. And I mean, that's pretty easy to do because it's just 220 minus your age. And that's kind of where you get your max heart rate. And then you need to find a percentage of that, where 50 and 60%, that's zone 1. So it's very light activity, like I said, the talk test. Okay, talk test is zones 1 and 2. All right, and that's going to be where everyone's going to be hanging out mostly. If you want to get into zones 3, 4, and 5, you're probably a little bit more advanced in your fitness level, and you can do harder things, which is going to increase your heart rate. Okay? So you can figure that out if you want to, but that's just kind of a good gauge of like, it says rate of perceived exertion. So if you know, okay, did I get a good workout? Did I challenge myself? Did I do enough? You can kind of rate that in your head. If your heart rate got high, or if it wasn't high enough, what zone you were in, or if you have like a specific training plan and the goal is to be in 70 to 80% of your heart rate max, then you gotta kind of track your heart rate and know where you're at all times. But that gets into like complicated stuff, and you guys don't really need to worry about it. Just, it kind of goes back to get your 150 minutes or your 75 every week, and that's what you need to do. That's like, the goal every week is to get either one of those. Next. Okay, here's your scale. Like I said, this is Borg. I don't know if he's German or Dutch or something like that. But he came up with a scale like 6 to 20. I don't know why it was 6 to 20, I forget. But they kind of modified it to a 0 to 10, which makes a lot more sense. And like I said, so you're kind of, everyone's going to be in the yellow here. And if you get into the green, that's great. You might get into the 4, but you're probably not going to get into a 5 unless you're able to do that, you know. It all depends on your ability level. So, at rest, very easy, somewhat easy, moderate. Just ways to think about what is your perceived exertion? How hard are you working? So how do we get our fitness in, or how do we get physical activity? There's lots of different things to do. You know, is sweeping the floor physical activity? Yes. Okay, good. All right, making sure we're awake. Is walking physical activity?
Yes.
Okay. Is resistance training physical activity?
Yes.
Okay, correct, yes. So it's all physical activity, but these are specific things that are more widely known as exercise. If you go to a gym, you're doing exercise, right? It's a specific thing. So this is just a list of different types of exercise options for you if you want to do Pilates or bar or cycling, biking, MMA, swimming. These are all great things. And this is not an exhaustive list, obviously, but just ideas of what you can do It's all great. As long as you're moving your body through space, you're getting blood flow, you're increasing your heart rate, that's the goal. Okay? It doesn't necessarily matter exactly what you're doing, but you need to get blood flowing, work the muscles a little bit, move the body. It's super simple. It's gonna do you a lot of benefits, and we'll get into that as well. But what's the number one excuse that everybody has? I don't got time. I don't got time to work out. I don't got time to do that stuff. Okay? So, if you don't have time, now usually people are thinking, okay, you go to the gym for an hour, right? Hour, that's a long time. Some people don't have an hour. You know, you might be busy. Now granted, you might not be super efficient with your time, but an hour is like more like an hour and a half, because if you're going to a gym, you gotta get ready to go to a gym, and by the time you get in your car and you go to the gym, and then you get in your car and drive home to the gym, and then you get back to the house, that's like an hour and a half of time, you know, at least. So, do you think, 5 minutes is useful or helpful, or pointless, or? Yeah. So, how hard of a workout do you think you get in 5 minutes?
Depends on what you do.
Right, right. So you could run in place, go as fast as you can. You could walk as fast as you can around the house. Go outside, walk as fast as you can. If you can do push-ups, do push-ups. If you can do squats, do squats. If you got stairs in your house, hit the stairs for 5 minutes, up and down, up and down. Time yourself. Everybody has 5 minutes. There's no way you're that busy. There's people that are like CEOs of multiple companies. They got meetings all day long, and they somehow still figure out how to get a workout in. So none of us are in that status. So there's no way you don't have 5 minutes to do something. So if you could do 5 minutes, I don't know, first thing in the morning, and then some point in the afternoon, you do another 5 minutes, and then some point in the evening, you do another 5 minutes. You just, as long as it's 5 minute bouts, if that's the least you can do is 5 minute bouts, do as many as you can throughout the day. Instead of picking your phone up, I don't know what's on Instagram. What's TikTok telling me? What's going on in the news? What's Trump doing today? You know, like, that's our go-to. That's such a time waster. That's what I call those apps. Social media, those are time wasting apps. They just suck your attention and your time, and they rot your soul away. So we all have 5 minutes, okay? So there's really no excuses to not be physically active. There's really no excuses to not do some type of exercise. So what are the benefits? Why should I exert a lot of energy, get my heart rate up, and sweat? I don't want to sweat, you know, it's uncomfortable. Why should I do these things? Okay? So if you look at the picture, that's your muscles, and they have it broken down. So the top left, that's like big scale, and then they cut it in half, and then we're looking at the inside. And then we're going deeper and deeper and deeper until you get to the very smallest possible part of the muscle, which is myofibrils, actin, and myosin. And that's kind of how the muscular system works. It's very complicated. I don't really necessarily need to talk about it, but yeah, that's how we flex our muscles. Is there's little tiny things that are attached to that blue actin thing at the very bottom in the center. And they basically grab on to parts of the muscle, and they do a little pull action, and they use ATP, and you move just a little bit, and that's like, everything moves just a little bit all the way up and down a muscle. And that's kind of how it works. It's pretty crazy that they can figure this out. God made us this way. But when you are physically active, and mostly when you're doing exercise, you are making your body function better. So you have muscle cells, you have nerve endings. Is it on there? Nerve axon branch. There's a nerve or axon terminal. I don't know if it's on this picture. I have it on a different picture maybe. But you get more of those. So motor end plate neuromuscular junction up there. See that yellow thing that attaches to the other tube there? So you basically get more of those when you start to exercise. specifically exercise. You're not necessarily going to get more of those just by walking and being physically active. You might have like your base layer, but when you're actually training your body, you get more of those, which innervate more muscle cells. So the electricity has more wires to go over here and zap these muscles, and they're going to branch out over here, and we're going to zap these muscles. And that's how you get stronger. That's how you basically do more things more efficiently, because everything grows, everything multiplies. Your body literally, like anatomically, at the microscopic level, things multiply. They get better and more efficient. And you get more of them, which is good. What do I have over there? I don't need to talk about that. Strength. That's kind of what I talked about. The central nervous system. That's where we get the strength. Is the yellow things up there. That's your nerves. That's the electricity travels through there, zaps the muscles, and boom, we start moving. What else? That's probably good for that. There's the brain. So the cerebellum down there, that is kind of where most of the locomotor skills come from, is the cerebellum. And when you're physically active, there's a lot of blood flow that goes there, and there's a specific chemical called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and it's really great for creating new neurons and new brain cells. So it's really great to do if you're like studying or trying to learn a new skill. You be physically active, and you read some stuff, and then you be physically active and you read some stuff. That's like a really great way to learn, because you get that BDNF pumping. It's really great for the brain. It's super healing. Like I said, more nerves, more brain cells, all that type of stuff. So that kind of happens in the cerebellum mostly. And we'll talk about the brain more during sleep, because everything's a top-down problem. The brain is like the quantum supercomputers. So we'll get into that as well. Anything else with the brain? I don't think. We want to get blood flow there. Blood flow to the brain is good. You know that the brain burns, I think it's 20% of your like daily calories. Like it burns 20% of daily calories. I don't know if it's your BMR. It might be your BMR. 20% loves sugar. Brain runs on sugar. Here's your nerves. This is a nerve cell, not just a regular cell, but a nerve cell. So this kind of gets into what I was talking about. See how it like branches off and goes everywhere? That's how it innervates different muscles and gets things contracting and working. But last class we talked about myelin and the myelin sheaths, if you guys remember, and DHA, fatty acids and stuff. So that's that blue stuff there. That's your insulation on your wires. Okay? And you don't want that to go away. Demyelination is not a good thing. That's where you get into your Parkinson's, your brain diseases, MS, all that type of stuff. So we want to keep those firing. If you have electricity flowing through you, that's a good thing. So being physically active, eating a good diet, everything we've talked about so far, you're going to be in good shape. So in there, that's the cell. So we're going to talk about the mitochondria a little bit. Like I said, I could talk more, but I don't want to. Oh, I'm sure you saw that, but where does electricity come from? Power plants. Yeah, I showed you the picture. But a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I plugged the outlet in over there, right? That's where it comes from. Then where does that come from? You know, like there's a source, right? It's in the air. So these are power plants, and that's how we get electricity across the world. You have to burn fossil fuels to create electricity. It's usually steam, spinning turbines, and the spinning of the technology makes electricity, and they do that, and that's how we get power. So there's things being burned, there's energy being burned, and that's how we get electricity. So these are power plants, and the mitochondria are our power plants. Okay? So the mitochondria are working, things are spinning, literally. They're basically like hydrogen power plants. They use a lot of hydrogen, and they're super beneficial. They do so many things. They're like the most important aspect of health. If you have really good mitochondria density, if your mitochondria are working really well, it's basically kind of metabolism. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's like the key. Don't really need to talk a whole bunch about it, but just kind of think about, we want to have a lot of these. We want to have a lot of power plants, little tiny. They're basically microbes. We talked about the microbiome before. These are microbes, ancient microbes. They come from the very beginning of time, and they're really good for you. So we want to keep them burning fuel. That's how we get our electricity. So more mitochondria. So we want to protect the mitochondria, and that's where sleep comes in. Okay? Does anybody know the two most dense organs in the body of mitochondria? The organs that have the most mitochondria. Anybody know? Any guesses?
Your heart?
Good guess. Yes, you're correct. Your heart, and then there's one more. Brain. Exactly. So those are the two most important organs, and the two organs that are being bombarded with toxins and chronic disease. What's the leading cause of death? Well, cancer's up there pretty high, but heart disease is one. And then you have all your brain diseases and cancer. Diabetes is on there. But it all comes down to like a metabolic issue with the mitochondria. It's a really complicated subject. Like I said, I enjoy talking about it and learning about it, but it's not a necessary thing to know for you to understand sleep and health and being physically active. So, sleep, that's a bunch of words. Don't really need to say that's the definition of what sleep is. It's an essential physiological process. All mammals have to do it. We need it every day. If you don't have sleep, you feel like crap, right? Get a good night's sleep, you feel like crap. And your day sucks, and you're just dragging, probably pounding coffee, energy drinks, whatever you can do to keep going. So we're going to look at the very beautiful, very complex, God-created process of sleep. It's a lot more complicated than, well, I just go to bed and close my eyes and I'm out, and then I wake up, you know. Sleep is one of the most studied subjects, I guess, and they still don't know a whole lot about it. Like they know like the basics, and we're going to talk about it, but like dreams, for example, like they're really confused on why dreams are functioning, and brain waves. So they're able to map these and measure these with measuring devices. So hertz is like a form of electricity, so they're able to basically map that on, I think they use like an EKG or something like that, and they get a number. So those are all your brain waves. Like I said, probably don't necessarily need to know them, but we got alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma, and a little fun fact, theta waves are very beneficial, and we have the most of them when we're ages 0 to 7. Some people might say 8 too, but that's the age where we're learning everything. If you have a really good childhood, and you were pushed to do good things and blah blah blah, you're probably gonna be pretty well off in life if those first 7 years were good. If you had things happen to you, then you're probably gonna have to deal with that later. But that's just based off of how important those theta waves are. And it's great for learning, creativity, and all that type of stuff. So which one? Gamma, those are the ones that are really fast. And that's like when we're awake, we have these. But for some reason, when we sleep, we also have them. And that's when we're in REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement. And that's when we do all of our dreaming. That's when we do a lot of the complex processes. And we have that super high brainwave happening, like we're awake, but we're in like a super deep sleep. So that's like why I said that they do a lot of research on it, but it's like, okay, we know what's happening, but like, why is this happening? You know, like they don't necessarily have the best answers. So why is sleep so complicated and it's like unknown by the general public? Because we have these different stages of sleep. There's 4 stages, and if you take a nap, you're going to be in like stage 1. If you're really good at sleeping for some reason, you might be able to get into a deeper stage and you might like have a little bit of a dream or something like that and a quick nap or something, and that will be really great. And like I said, don't know why, you just fell into a slumber and it worked out well for you. So stage 1, very light sleep. It's usually the first few minutes. Okay, so you're like getting groggy and like you fall asleep and like it's the first few minutes you're in stage 1. Stage 2, it's still non-REM, so it's still light, but it's deep enough to start these complex processes, and you're going to be harder to wake up. So stage 3 is where we do a lot of healing. So stage 3 and stage 4 are the most important. And if you don't, a lot of people aren't getting them, pretty much. You might get a few hours, maybe an hour of deep sleep every night if you're doing really well. But most people aren't getting good sleep. Most of people, myself included, are kind of, it comes in waves, so it's a cycle. We're in stages like 1 through 3. If you have a dream, chances are you got some deep sleep, you got a little bit of REM, or you were in deep sleep. So we're going to get into why we don't get good sleep, and that'll be fun, but understanding that it's more complicated than just being unconscious. We're not just unconscious when we sleep. Like, it's the most complicated thing ever. Like, we're not aware of what's happening, but there's so many things happening at once, and it's like, it's the most beneficial aspect of health. The most important word that you can learn from this entire presentation is autophagy. Looks like autophagy, but say it, autophagy. Most important word you can learn, Google it, read about it, understand it. That's where we get all the benefits. That's the process of cleaning, rebuilding, nourishing, laying down layers of bone, all sorts of stuff. This is like the thing when it comes to sleep. If you are achieving autophagy during your slumber, you are benefiting yourself very much. That's the goal. And usually this happens for a lot of reasons, but there's things that will kick you out of not being able to achieve this. And that's kind of what we're going to get into, is like, what is preventing us from achieving autophagy when we sleep? And what can we do about it? We can do a lot of things about it, but very important. Okay? Does everybody understand that? Oh yeah. So 4 stages. It's usually, what's like the recommended number of sleep that everybody says? How many hours of sleep should I get? 8. Okay. So 4 stages. It usually takes about 4 hours to go through the whole cycle. It doesn't mean every stage is an hour, but some of them are different. Like stage 1, it's usually minutes. And then we want to get the most amount of time in stage 3 and 4. Okay? So usually this cycle of stages 1 through 4 is about 4 hours. And then ideally, you get another cycle of all the stages, and that's another 4 hours. So that's 8 hours of sleep. It's recommended, and we'll talk about that, to get 7 to 9 hours. Everybody's different. A lot of people function really well on 6. Other people, they might not get that. They might get 4. And that's just kind of how they exist. I know guys at work that I work with, they don't sleep. Like it's like this craziest thing ever. I don't understand how they function, but they get like 4 hours of sleep. And they're just used to that.
That's about me.
Yeah,
Got 4 hours of sleep if I'm lucky.
yeah, that's not good.
Yep.
So,
When I function, I am on the go, but I do function.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
have 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I don't know how people do it. I mean,
Yep, I do it.
you get used to everything, the body adapts. Yes?
If you get 4 hours of sleep and you wake up just fine, like you're awake and ready to go.
Then you probably did well with the autophagy. You got into deep sleep, you probably got into some REM sleep, but you want to get more than 4 hours. 4 hours is not enough. Do you take naps?
No,
No naps? So just 4 hours, you're good for the rest of the day.
4 hours, sometimes even less than that.
Okay.
Sometimes more, but 4.5 hours into sleep clearly. We gave me a CPAP, that didn't help. Melatonin, tryptophan.
Nothing.
Decaffeinated for months, didn't help. But I wake up, you're like, okay, it's 4 o'clock, let's go.
Some people are anomalies. That's the thing. I'm sure we might get into some stuff that you do that might be preventing that, but
Okay, great.
yeah, some people are just weird. Yeah.
I've been told, yeah.
And women are a lot more complicated too, so that adds a whole another scenario in that you guys have to deal with. So that's the thing. Okay, why is it so important? So this is some of the complicated processes. The body is super anabolic, so that basically means like things are working, things are building up. Think of anabolic as building up. Anabolic steroids. What happens when you take anabolic steroids? You get jacked. Muscles on muscles on muscles. Things are building up. That's what the body's doing when you're asleep. That's when you have the most amount of sex hormones. That's testosterone, human growth hormone, your estrogen levels for women and stuff like that. That's when you have the most amount. So when all the guys are like, I need to get on test, it's like, no, you just need to get really good sleep, you know? But they don't really understand that. It's a lot easier to take an injection of test and feel really good, feel like you're 18 again. It's not so easy to be disciplined and get better sleep. This is when we burn the most amount of fat, because probably we have a ton of hormones pumping through us, and our body is just, it's burning everything up. It's burning everything up. So when it comes to weight loss, sleep is one of the most important things as well, to like really hone in on and make sure you're getting good sleep, because we want to burn fat, right? And then autophagy, we talked about that, cleans, repairs, builds, all the things. And then the other really important fancy word is apoptosis. And we're going to talk about circadian biology for a while. And that's like another good take-home message. So a lot of people have said that it's like recharging the batteries. When your phone gets low, comes up red, you know, low power mode, we'd say, oh yeah, go low power mode until I get my charger. Then you plug your phone in, and electricity charges those batteries up, gets to 100%. That phone's working good, right? That's what happens when we sleep. We recharge our batteries. But it's even way more complicated than that, and it's way better than just a recharge of the battery. It's literally like if you have a car. I went and bought a brand new car right out of the factory, right? I got in, drive it off the lot, day one. I drive wherever I want, whatever, and I take it home, I park it in the garage, turn it off, and while it's off, it's magically putting new treads on the tires. I got new brakes and rotors. There's someone detailed my car. I didn't even put any dirt in it yet, but somebody detailed my car.
Where'd you get it?
This car doesn't exist, but that would be nice. So that's kind of what happens. New oil, fresh gas, all the things. Every time you would drive the car, every time you get in, take it out for a spin, come back, park it, turn it off. Brand new everything. Fresh paint job, all that stuff. That's what's good sleep is doing to the body. All of that. New brakes and rotors, everything. No rust, anti-rust technology, all of the crazy stuff that you can possibly imagine. That's what's happening. So it's way better than just a fresh battery. Okay. What's next? Circadian rhythm. Okay, this is circadian biology. This is where it gets complicated. Okay, very important subject matter. Does anybody know what this would mean? Throw out stuff. Any guesses? Break the words down. Circadian rhythm. Any ideas?
Electric pulses
Okay, that's involved, yeah.
in our body.
Yeah, rhythms. Circadian,
That is circular.
yeah. Cycles, yeah. Okay, so think about things as a cycle, and the cycle's a rhythm, and a clock. Okay. So that's kind of the definition. I do like this, so I am going to read it actually. So bear with me. Circadian rhythm is the 24-hour internal clock in our brain that regulates cycles of alertness and sleepiness by responding to light changes in our environment. Responding to light changes in our environment. Our physiology and behavior are shaped by the Earth's rotation around its axis. This biological circadian system has evolved to help humans adapt to changes in our environment and anticipate changes in radiation, temperature, and food availability. Without this endogenous circadian clock, which endogenous basically just means internal, Homo sapiens would not be able to optimize energy expenditure and the internal physiological process of the body. I'd be missing a word there. So there's a lot wrapped up in that, okay? Did anybody learn anything there in that little paragraph? No? How about that we anticipate changes in radiation? What's radiation? What would that be? The sun, correct. And just space in general. There's frequencies flying around everywhere. So we have to interpret that. Temperature, obviously everyone knows that. Hot, cold, middle somewhere. Food availability, seasonal items. We talked about that a little bit with nutrition. Things that are available certain times of year based off temperature. What else? Thought was cool. Shaped around Earth's rotation around its axis. So that's pretty crazy. So that's kind of where seasons come from. When we're flying through space, we have like a little wobble that happens, and when we get a certain part in the cycle, that's when winter happens, and then we get over here, we're in summertime, and it's all God's perfect timing. So lots of words to say. Wake up with the sun and go to sleep with the sun. Okay? That's your clock, is the sun. When does the sun come up? Currently. Anybody know?
About 7, 6, 7.
Yeah, it's probably like 6 something, a little before 7. When does it set currently?
Leadership.
Yeah. So ideally we're awake and the sun comes up. And even in I forget what time of year it is. Is it winter? When it's like super early, it's like 5. It's ideal to watch the sunrise. If you can get early morning sunlight, that's like the best thing for your health, which is the circadian clock, the circadian biology, the rhythms. You want to set your clock, your internal clocks, with the sun when it comes up. That's how we can optimize sleep. If we get those frequencies from the light of the sun into our eyes and on our skin first thing in the morning, that's what sets the tone from the top down. Everything happens in the brain, top down, to sync all the organs together. Certain hormones are produced. It's all like a cascading numerical process that's like, okay, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. Like we talked about cortisol at one point. I think that was last time. Cortisol has 2 different. It's diurnal. So at 8 a.m. it's going to have a spike naturally, and then it starts to slow down at 4 p.m. That's like the natural rhythms of our cortisol hormone. How does it know to do that? Circadian biology, circadian rhythms. It's a natural process. It's a natural rhythm of the body. if your clocks are set right, everything functions. Right? If you're going through life and you're, I always, like, my car is like 20 some minutes ahead, like my clock in my car. I don't know why I do that, but I like it for some reason. So if I'm like on time, I'm early, you know? But I don't know if anybody else does that, but I always like to operate in the future when it comes to a clock, instead of like right on time or in the past by a minute or two. I want to be in the future. But yeah, like if you're going through life like out of sync with your time, you're going to be late. You're not going to be able to show up to things when you said you were going to be there. You're going to feel like you're going crazy because, oh, I'm late because my clocks are wrong and I thought it was 5. I'm late to work and I forgot to set my alarm. It's daylight savings time. You get all thrown on. So we want to have our clocks set to the right time. So we're tuning into nature. It's a really easy statement. Okay, that's how we want to think about this whole thing. Tuning in to nature. Like Bible times. Did they have electricity? Did they have cell phones? How often were they coming home from work and sitting down in front of the TV for the next 3 hours and then I go to bed? Never. How often were they outside doing things? Right. Did they have, what type of technology did they have?
Sundials.
Yeah. They had technology, but it looks a lot different than what we have now. But
You sound like you're talking about the Amish.
Yeah.
That's their routine.
oh yeah. I mean, they don't have electricity, so they have to operate that way. A lot of Amish are very healthy.
Ooh, yes.
So what was I saying?
Sorry.
Technology and Bible times. So this was not a problem because they were tuned into nature, like constantly. They knew what time of year it was. They knew when it was time to plant seeds. They knew when it was time to harvest. Like that all has to deal with the sun and the temperature and like things that are constantly changing and developing. Like they were tuned into that, and there was nothing about their lifestyle that disconnected them from nature. It wasn't invented yet. Nothing was invented yet. They existed that way. That was the only thing that they knew. And then all of a sudden we created light bulbs, and we created radio frequencies, and we created all of these advanced technologies that pretty much pulled us out of nature, got us disconnected from all of that, and put us indoors. So we basically turned ourselves into zoo animals, and we're indoors most of the time. We don't have to go find our food anymore. We have our food served to us, and it's not the best food a lot of times. So yeah, we want to get wild again. We want to get out of the zoo, which is getting back to nature. Tune into nature. So if you can think about that throughout your life, try to get outside as much as you can, those types of things, you're going to be better off. You're going to sync your circadian clocks, your hormones are going to work, all that type of stuff. Living seasonally, this is really interesting and kind of fun to do. Like if you're, like in this area, we have a lot of different, like our agriculture is pretty decent in Pennsylvania, especially in the summertime. So there's certain foods that are available in the summer, right? A lot of fruits available in the summertime, all your berries and stuff like that. And then there's certain things that are available in the fall. And then in the wintertime, we eat a lot of root vegetables, like potatoes and onions and radishes and carrots and things that literally grow into the earth and you have to pull them out. Those are because they store really well, so that's kind of what we eat in the wintertime. But we have access to things that are seasonal to our area, and if we can eat seasonally, that also helps to tune the circadian rhythm. So if I'm eating pumpkin or butternut squash in October, I'm giving my body information that says, hey, it's October. There's certain things there's information in the food. We talked about color. That's a certain spectrum of light, right? And that is basically digested and interpreted in the body, and it helps with the circadian rhythm of, hey, it's October, we're getting into, winter is coming. Winter is coming. We're preparing, we're getting ready for what's to come. So that's like a fun thing to try, different fruits that are available during certain times of year, literally traveling to little farms and stuff. People are growing stuff in their garden. Having a garden, that's fun to do. Gets you connected to nature. So, I kind of mentioned this already, but does the modern world enable us to do this? Not really, no. Like I said, we're zoo animals. We're stuck indoors. We sleep indoors, we go outside, get in the car, nice controlled environment. It's really hot out in the summer. I'm cranking that AC up as soon as I can. I want to get that temperature down as quick as possible. Controlled environment. I want a controlled environment as quick as possible. And then I'm going to get to work. And I don't have a desk job or whatever, but if I get to work, I want to be comfortable too. So I'm inside at work, and it's a controlled environment. So I'm never in an environment that's not controlled. I don't ever get outside where it's like really hot. Oh man, I'm hot, I'm sweating. My body has to perspire to keep me cool. Like that's what the body is supposed to do. But we don't ever like get it to do that because I want to be cool. I got AC. And I don't need to do that. So the modern world doesn't really enable us to live this lifestyle. We have to go out of our way to live this type of lifestyle. I mentioned that light bulbs and electricity. There's a big clock. So this is where things can get fun. And this is stuff that I like. Can I get a time check?
6:53.
Okay. Let's see. So this is the brain. These are all things in the brain. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, so that's the master clock, okay? And that's located deep, like literally right behind your eyes. So your optic nerve goes right into your brain, and that's where the SCN is located. So that's your master clock is interpreting your lighting environment. So right now we are under probably blue light spectrum of light, and my eyes are interpreting that into my brain. Like, that's what we're seeing currently. And the sun currently probably doesn't have a whole lot of that spectrum in it because we're getting into the evening time, it's getting darker, it's not as bright, the sun's not out, I'm not getting direct sunlight, but these are super bright, and I have to interpret what these lights are. So a very new invention, and this type of light disrupts our clocks. So, I don't know how much I want to get into that, but if you guys are interested in it, we can go there, but I don't want to bore you guys with things that aren't super important. The PVN, that's another specific part of the brain. It's very tiny. It's kind of underneath the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that's basically where three things converge that are very important, which is the endocrine system, so that's your hormones, and then your nervous system, which, like I said, that's the yellow things on the picture, and then your immune system. So these three things converge into the PVN, and they work together and communicate. We talked about communication during the nutrition class on why it's really important for our body to have great communication. Communication is key. If our clocks are off, how well are we communicating? We're not communicating very well if our clocks are off. So you have this convergence of these three very important things: immune system, endocrine system, and nervous system. If those things are off and out of whack, if your PVN is out of whack, it's out of tune, you're going to have problems in those areas. Your hormones are going to be off. So that can mean I'm only getting 4 hours of sleep, or I don't sleep well at all, I feel like crap, I'm super tired, maybe you're getting sick all the time, your immune system's super low, maybe you're really weak, nervous system. Very important part of the brain. Then the HPA axis, that's hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, another very important part. So that's kind of where cortisol comes from in the brain. And all your adrenals, that's kind of basically your stress response. And if that's off, then everything else is off too. So again, that's kind of cortisol, stress, and this is where, so the HPA is where the, if I'm interpreting Wi-Fi, so there's Wi-Fi in here, I think, right?
Mhm.
So we're all currently interpreting Wi-Fi, the frequencies of Wi-Fi, which I don't know what they are, but some of them are like 2.4 gigahertz or whatever. So we're interpreting that frequency in the PVN and the HPA. That's where the stress response is recorded in the brain to interpret those frequencies. Is that a natural frequency? No. When did we ever interpret that type of frequency in human existence? Never. This is a very new development. Radio waves, 5G, your cell phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. The list can go on. All of the technology has to be interpreted. They're all frequencies. Everything is frequencies based because it's a form of light. So we have to interpret that. And that kind of scrambles the brain, kind of confuses everything because it's a very unnatural frequency. It's super high. The highest frequency that the body really puts up is 50 hertz. That's like if you are super healthy, your mitochondria are on point, you're at like 50 hertz. And Wi-Fi routers are like 2.4 gigahertz. Or they're super outperforming your frequencies. But we have protective mechanisms in the body, which is really interesting. We're definitely not going to get into that. But just know that, what do you need to know? It's very important to sync your clocks with nature, get tuned in with the sun, and limit your blue light exposure, which is screens, mostly, which we're going to talk about. I think. Okay. Briefly. Nice picture. What is this? Roots. How many roots are there? A lot. Good. Right. A good strong tree doesn't have one giant root in the ground all the way down, right? It spreads out. There's many roots everywhere. There's big ones, there's tiny ones, there's ones that clearly are getting more nutrients out of the ground than others. It's decentralized, right? There's no central root. They're all working together. That's the God design of the human body. We are a decentralized system. Nothing works on its own. Everything is like this tree root. It's all working together. That root system of that tree is holding that thing up forever, and they're all holding a piece of the ground. It's all the firm foundation. Everything is working together. That's what the body does. So here's those two fancy words. Very important to know. So to achieve these, obviously we're talking about circadian regulation. So that's going to be your sleep-wake cycles. If you're rising with the sun, going to sleep when it gets dark, not staying up too late, like midnight or 11 or 2 a.m. or whatever. It's just not a natural thing to do. So apoptosis is proper timing of cell death. Okay? What happens when a cell doesn't die?
Does it get weak?
Gets stronger.
Oh.
Cancer.
Oh.
When cells don't die, that's cancer. So it's a chaotic cell out of its clock that's like, you know what? It's not time to die. We're going to keep this going, and we're going to tell this guy what we're doing. And he's going to join us, and he's not going to die either. And then we're going to get this guy over here. So then it just spreads, right? That's kind of like, very generally speaking, That's cancer kind of in a nutshell. And obviously it's super complicated and a lot of nuances and stuff there, but that's general statement. So that's not good, right? Not good. We want things to die. I think it's like 7 years or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but a certain span of time, your whole body is new. You have new bones, you have new skin, you have new heart, you have new lungs, new liver, new kidneys, your tissues regenerate. Everything becomes new. Like out with the old, in with the new, things die. Your cells die. That's a very important process. Because we build new, we clean that up, we get rid of that, right? Like the car, the fresh detailed car, it's magic and it gets brand new everything. That's what happens. Like I said, I don't remember if that's like 7 years or 10 years or whatever, but it's a decent one. Is it 7? Okay. See, so I'm not totally BSing you guys. Somebody else is. So autophagy again, another important word. Okay. So this is a true quest in the modern world, is to achieve these things and to understand this process and to really know the whole picture of what's happening. Because a lot of people like to focus on food, like get your diet in check and you're going to be awesome, like your health is optimal, or you just need to start exercising, right? We hone in and we form like these silos of different subjects of like, well, you know, I'm in this category and this is like the most important thing ever, and like exercise. I'm a fitness instructor. Like exercise is the most important aspect of health. Well, no, I'm over here. I talk about nutrition. I'm a nutrition guru. Nutrition is like the most important aspect of health. Like everybody has like their thing that they think is the most important. But again, we're decentralized. Everything works together in unison. We have to have a balance of everything. That's the quest that we have to go on. We have to have good nutrition. We have to have good sleep. We have to have good physical activity. We have to have good relational habits. We have to have good emotional habits. Like there's so many things that go into living a holistic lifestyle. And it's hard to do. It's really hard to get a really good night's sleep as well. So here's like probably the most important part of the whole presentation. So you got to sit through an hour of me talking just to get to this slide. This is what disrupts your sleep. This is what you need to know. So take pictures, look at this, and there's another slide too of like what you can do as well. But blue light, talked about that a little bit. That disrupts your sleep. So if you're staring at your phone before bed, so I just want to chill out, I want to get a little bit of me time before I go to bed and wind down, and you're just scrolling, just looking at nothing, that's not good. You're not going to sleep well. You're probably going to keep scrolling. I call it doom scrolling. It's a popular thing to say, right? You're just doom scrolling of like, you're getting nowhere, you're doing nothing, you're just draining your brain and your soul into the phone. Caffeine, afternoon or in general, not a good idea, because you're going to disrupt your sleep. We talked about caffeine a little bit. For those that weren't here, caffeine, good thing to not consume after like noon or 1 o'clock. Try to limit your caffeine. If you're going over 200 milligrams a day, you need to have at least 2 days off to kind of flush your system out, because it stays in the body too long. Stress, just overall, like how you handle life, that can, like some people are like just super stressed out about everything all the time, like worriers, you know. That affects the HPA, the axis that we talked about in the brain. That's where all your stress comes from. So that affects that, and that's going to disrupt some things. Lack of sun exposure. If you're inside all day, it's not a good idea. We have to be outside. We have to get sun exposure. It's the most important thing. We evolved, we adapted from the sun. It's only been as of recently that we're like afraid of sunlight and we're all indoors and it's too hot and all this stuff. Like we used to endure this. We used to like have to work outside no matter what the temperature was. Like you protected yourself when you needed to if you were too hot or whatever. Like we used to have to do this. So sun exposure, super important. Alcohol and drugs obviously would affect the brain, right? A lot of people are like, well, I take a little shot of whiskey or whatever before bed and that really helps knock me out. I know my dad was always a proponent of that, and he wouldn't ever give it up or listen to anything that I had to say. But alcohol is a sedative, so that's what it's supposed to do. It's a depressant. It like brings you down, and it's gonna knock you out. That's what it does. But it disrupts your sleep. It prevents you from getting into REM, which is that deep sleep, which is stages 3 and 4. So it prevents you from getting there. Your body has to process the alcohol first. We're gonna have to process this, we're gonna take care of it, get it out, and then we can sleep. Same thing if you're eating too late. If you eat a big meal and then you go right to bed, you have to digest all that food first, and then your body can start to sleep and repair and do all the things. Non-native EMF, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell phones, radios, all that type of stuff. The invisible things in the world that exist everywhere. Those all disrupt sleep because, again, it's interpreted in the brain. The brain has to figure out what is happening, what's coming in, what's going out. So if you're getting a whole ton of that and not from a native source, which is the sun, your body's gonna be all out of whack. So non-native means not natural, it's not an original thing. Native would be, it's been here all along, which would be the sun. So like I said, this is a new thing, it's a new development. I forget when the radio frequencies were started. Is it the 30s or 20s or the early 1900s, I think. So what, 100 some years, whatever? And then obviously you can have vitamin mineral deficiency. There's certain things that could keep you from getting into sleep or getting into a deep sleep. And blood sugar regulation, we talked about insulin resistance first class. If your insulin is up and down all day long, your blood sugar is up and down all day long, chances are it's going to be doing that as well during your sleep, and your body is having to regulate that, and it's worrying about that first, and it's not like being able to get into a good night's sleep. So when I talk about autophagy, that's really easily achieved during fasting. Like when we fast and there's nothing to do, the body has nothing to do, and it does autophagy, especially when you sleep. So if you're going to bed a little bit hungry, that's a good thing, or like a slightly empty stomach. Like you don't want to have a full stomach, right? But you know, maybe there might be a little bit something in there left over. But if you're going to bed kind of on an empty stomach, I don't like to eat too late, like 7 or 8. But your body has to digest the food first, like I said before, and you're not going to get into that deep sleep, that deep REM sleep. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so again, how? So this is kind of very similar to what we just talked about, but kind of just a different way of saying it. So 7 to 9 hours is ideal. That's like the recommended allotted time that you need. You can do everything you need to do in 7 to 9. 9 seems like a lot, but some people do need more than 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever. Everybody is different when it comes to that. So don't give somebody a hard time because they have to sleep more than you. Like some people have to. That's just when they feel the best. And you can kind of play with that too. So say you want to try to get 7 hours, and like for some reason you're like not feeling great when you wake up. So maybe you want to get like 6.5 or like 7.5. Like you can play with that time a little bit to see whenever you're in a certain stage of sleep. So when you wake up, you're not you're not waking up from like a super deep sleep. You're waking up from stage 1 instead of stage 3 or 4. And that's just going to be better for like stress and like carrying your energy levels throughout the day and just feeling alert when you wake up. Like, oh, I feel rested. You know, like I'm sure we've all experienced that where you wake up and you're like, oh my, and you're like super tired, you know. And then other times you're like, oh, I'm wide awake. This is great. So that's like based off of your stages and the cycles that you were going through of when you woke up in a certain cycle and what feels best for you. So everybody's different. Some people could be 6, 7.5, 7 hours and 45 minutes, 8 hours and 10 minutes. Whatever it could be, you can play with that a little bit and see where you feel best. Caffeine cycling method, talked about that before, so you need 2 days off if you're consuming caffeine. Ideally, it's not going to be perfect with that, but that's going to be a good idea. Limiting screen time at night. Okay, so you're getting your blue light exposure down and your sunlight exposure up. So again, sunrise, sunset, get sun exposure into the eyes, naked eyeballs. If you're wearing contacts or glasses, that's filtering light, and you want to get the naked eye. And fresh sunlight into the naked eye and on the skin, ideally. And the morning time is super safe, so nobody has to worry about UV radiation or whatever, or try to like tell me that the sun's bad, because it's extremely safe no matter who you are first thing in the morning. Bedtime routine. We have morning routines, right? Some people have like, this is what I do every morning. I journal, I read, I eat, and then I do this, and so why don't we have a bedtime routine, right? A lot of times it's like, oh, I gotta go to bed, and then you're like, you're going to bed. But like, you should be preparing yourself to go to sleep, especially in the modern world. Like, have a routine, because that routine can also start to signal things like, oh, we've been doing this lately. Like, our body starts to recognize, oh, when we do this, then we do this, and then we sleep. It's like, oh, it's a pattern. So you catch on to the pattern, and that helps you get into sleep too. So it's like, your body's recognizing that. Cool room temperature. I think the number is like 65 degrees is like optimal. So again, that kind of helps. Yeah?
Is it weird that I can't fall asleep in this
Probably. A lot of women, I don't want to say a lot of women, but from my experience.
I gotta be bundled up and like
I have like 3 blankets, like aside from my cover, like a couple blankets stacked.
Yeah.
It's like I'm
Okay.
always freezing too.
So that gets into like the mitochondria. So your power plants are not producing a lot of heat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Too much
caffeine.
That's bad, right?
Huh?
So that's bad.
Yeah, you want to be hot. You want to be able to regulate your body temperature for sure. Like a lot of people, like my wife included. Huh?
So how would you fix that?
Like your mitochondria. Doing this. So circadian rhythm. If you can optimize your circadian rhythm, and you can get rid of consuming all the blue light all the time, that's a huge problem. Huge problem. Staring at screens, watching TV until you go to sleep or whatever, sleeping with the TV on, all the things, not good. Like, really bad idea. So yeah, you gotta get your mitochondria in check so that they can vibrate to produce enough infrared light, and that's like a whole conversation, but that's usually the problem. Do you ever do like a cold plunge? Yeah, how'd that go?
Freezing. Cause I'm naturally freezing all the time.
Did you have did it hurt? Like, did you have a really hard time getting warm again?
No, but I have a really hard time because I work outside, and so like whenever I'm indoors from all this heat, it's like it's never.
Okay. Kind of lost me there a little bit, I
Yes,
guess.
And your house is not cold.
My house is cold.
It's not. It's not cold.
No?
I need to set it like
80, okay, that's a little too hot. But yeah, cold
80.
baths.
Slow ice.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing too. That's usually what they tell you. That's like their analysis is, oh, you have low iron. But it's a mitochondria problem. So cold thermogenesis, which is what happens whenever you get into like a cold tub or you experience some type of extreme cold,
Yeah.
and then you get out of the cold, your body has to heat itself back up to get to like a regulated state.
So
And
is that what I'm doing, like the opposite from sitting in the 90-degree weather? Sorry.
What do you mean, like when you're outside?
Yeah, I sit outside in the heat for like hours for my job, and then like I go inside and just freezing all day.
Okay, I don't know.
Uh,
You probably get used to that. I know, I mean, my wife, she loves hot, like 80, 90.
Me too.
She's like, I want the heat.
I also grew up in the South, so this is like very cool.
Okay, so that could probably be a very important factor.
Okay.
Yeah. So you were used to, so you basically changed your latitude. You went north, and you developed with a certain angle and radiation of light for your whole life. So you adapted to like a specific frequency from the sun, pretty much. So changing that could cause something like that. But yeah, that's fun. Okay. Airplane mode. You guys know how to use airplane mode on your phones?
I never even heard of it. What is that?
Oh, really?
I'm technology challenged.
Do you have an iPhone or a smartphone?
I have an Android phone.
Okay, you have an iPad or like stuff like
No,
that?
just this.
Okay, yeah. So there's a setting. I know for an iPhone, I don't know how Androids work, but kind of just like swipe down or swipe up or whatever. However you get it into settings.
And you'll have airplane mode.
Yeah, there's literally an airplane symbol.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah, you touch that, and that turns everything off. So you're dark. You can't receive messages. There's nothing coming in and out of that phone. You're dark. There's no frequencies, nothing.
Okay.
So airplane mode is great to use anytime you can. I don't necessarily do it all the time, just because I get lazy with it and it's kind of like annoying to do. But when you go to sleep, when you're sleeping in your house, airplane mode that thing. Especially if you're sleeping. Oh, I tuck my phone in my pillow. I'm sleeping right on top of my 5G microwave radiation phone. Airplane mode that. Yeah, I know, that's what my wife says too.
Yeah, we don't have a house phone, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who's gonna call you?
My mom, my kids, rather.
Okay. So then just set it over there somewhere.
I do, I keep it
Okay.
in my head.
Yeah, that's like my wife's argument too, so I get that. Makes
If I
sense.
had a house phone, I wouldn't be so concerned, but without
Right.
a house phone.
Yeah. Maybe get a house phone.
They don't do it anymore.
Never had one.
Isn't that
I
crazy?
tried.
Yeah.
They won't do it.
Getting grounded. Anybody hear that?
Is that when you walk outside in your bare feet?
Yeah.
I do that a lot.
Awesome. Good. You're getting frequencies from the earth, which is you're receiving electrons from the earth. Free electrons. And electrons are negatively charged,
So it
which
has to be on the grass or?
concrete's conductive. So if you're walking on a sidewalk, certain things that are conductive, that have some metal in them and sometimes, you're good. You're still going to receive that connection.
And when I take my laundry, I usually do it in my bare feet.
So how long would you have to do that?
There's no like set time. As soon as you do it, as soon as you step outside, it's instant. Those things are traveling right now, and you're getting those negative electrons in your body right away. Super beneficial. Like I said, this was something that we've always done as humans. Like, we didn't used to think that, I have to be in socks and shoes all the time, you know? We were outside in bare feet. Feet are dirty, right? That's why they did a lot of feet washing, right, in the Bible. They were always dirty. So, getting those negative electrons in the body, super good, because it helps with the conductivity of the electricity. So it's going to increase your voltage, which is a good thing. So we want to be high voltage, right? That's good. We want to have a good electrical system. And anytime you can get free stuff, free benefits, doesn't cost you any money, right? I'm not selling you a supplement. I'm not selling you, do this program. All you got to do is step outside.
That sounds snake oil.
Yeah, you just step outside, get bare feet in the ground. The natural process that God designed in us, you're just sucking it up into the earth, into the body. It's all there. Yeah. Food consumption, so that's kind of talking about your blood sugar regulation, eating too late, certain types of foods are worse than others, right? Super highly processed, sugary items, probably not a good idea. So stuff like that. But yeah, this is probably the other most important slide. So this one and the prior one, that's pretty much all you need to know. If you can implement these past 2 slides that we went over, you're good. You don't need to know any of the other information I talked about, all the science mumbo jumbo. You don't need to know any of that. You just need to do these things, right? What's the difference between information and knowledge? Everybody likes to say knowledge is power, right?
Exactly.
Right. So information is just information. You guys are all here to get information. I'm giving you information. But what's the knowledge piece? If you have knowledge, if knowledge is power, how do we get that? What comes with knowledge?
Wisdom is how you use the knowledge.
Yeah, so there's an experience there. If you have information plus an experience, you have knowledge, right? So if you take this information, you just put it in your back pocket, and you go home and you forget about everything, you got nothing. You don't have power.
So wisdom make you lazy.
Yeah. There you go, just Google it.
That's right.
You got to implement it. Implementation is the hardest part about everything that we've talked about so far in the three presentations. Yeah, it's great to have the information, but at the end of the day, you just have to do it. Like, there's no magic motivation that someone's going to instill into you. Like, I'm always motivated to work out, right? Like, you love working out so much, you must be always motivated to do it. Not really. Like, most of the time when I get home from work, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to work out. I don't want to do physical activity. But I do it anyways, right? Because at the end of the day, motivation disappears. All that stuff disappears. Anytime some type of adversity comes up, all that stuff goes out the window, and then you rely on your discipline and your integrity and how you implement things in your life and how you create your lifestyle. That's what you rely on. Like, there's no like magic motivation. People are happy all the time and like whatever. Like, we have to implement these things and actually do stuff. So that's earning it. Did you earn it? What'd you do all day? Are you even tired? Were you physically active at all? Or do you just lay around and do nothing? Like, you're probably going to sleep a lot better if you're tired. Make sense? All right, wrapping it up. This is the end. So this is kind of what we talked about, the triangle of wellness, which is the temple. The body is the temple. And if you want to take care of the body, like I said, 3 things that you need to do. Eat well, so monitor your nutrition, be physically active, and sleep. So we've learned about all of those things so far. And if you want a healthy body, that's what you gotta do. 3 basic things. That's all you gotta worry about to get the body in check. Does anybody know what the picture is?
Sphinx.
Yeah, so do you know where the Sphinx is facing?
East.
Correct. Where's the sunrise?
East.
East. Right. So we have this ancient knowledge of where do we need to face?
East.
East. We need to get sunlight. We need to get sunlight first thing in the morning. So somehow they knew that. Okay, there's notes, but all right.
That was the aliens coming.
Exactly. Or the Anunnaki. Questions? Anybody have specific